All right, everyone. Well, once again, thank you for coming. The lines are muted right now, but we will be unmuting those lines at the end of our presentation. And let's get started. So again, my name is Daniel Freeman. I'm the marketing manager here at mPower. And we also have joining us today Greg Calcari, who is the founder and owner of mPower. And he'll be conducting the software part of our demonstration. So I'm just going to go over, give you a brief introduction to mPower and a brief overview of Integrator, which is our flagship software program that Greg will be demonstrating. And then after Greg's demonstration, we'll have a wrap-up and Q&A. All right, so mPower was founded in 2006. We are GIS software and smart grid systems integration specialists. We have 25 employees, and our senior personnel here has over 20 years of experience working in the utility area. We have electric, water, gas, municipal, and institutional customers in 30 states, and our mission is to make GIS and smart grid integration more affordable and more user-friendly by lowering its cost and complexity. And on the right-hand side, you can see our main office, which is where I'm speaking to you from in Iron Mountain, Michigan. And Greg is in our Appleton office, and we also have an office in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Here's just a sampling of some of our customers. You might see some people or some organizations that are close to you. We have many more, but this is just kind of a sampling here. We work with co-ops, munis, all kinds of organizations. All right, we are a Silver Esri partner. We also work with Autodesk. Irby is a distribution partner of ours, Irby's in quite a few states, and we're also members of the American Public Power Association, the NRECA, as well as numerous water and also state and regional associations as well. All right, I just want to kind of give you a couple things to think about as we get started here. So why mPower? What makes us different? We provide the services and expertise to get you started with your GIS. Our software is browser-based and mobile-friendly. Our software is also adaptable to existing workflows, so you don't have to change your day-to-day operations. Our software can kind of fit your workflow. We can also leverage existing enterprise data and systems, and we can save you time and resources. We also are going to show you how we can give you tools to build and generate powerful reports and conduct really powerful analysis. And lastly, and most importantly, we help you provide data to the people who need it, when they need it, whether they're in the office or in the field. All right, and so first off, I'm going to talk about Integrator. And Integrator is our flagship software program, and what it can do is, let me get my next slide going, there we go. Integrator is our browser-based GIS software integration tool that gives you the unique ability to connect all your enterprise systems to your GIS. So this product is more than just maps. It's an extremely high-end GIS software product that also seamlessly integrates with all of your other systems like billing or CIS, your AMI or AMR, OMS, AVAL, work orders, and pretty much any other enterprise systems you want to connect to your map. Once you connect all that, you're able to perform some really powerful high-end data analysis to make smarter decisions and add a level of intelligence to your entire organization. All right, here's a screenshot of what we call a site on Integrator. So as you can see, this is in a browser. And your organization can have a number of sites that display certain data. So these are browser-based, and you can link any data source to this map. And what we're looking at here is a screenshot from a customer we have in the Keweenaw Peninsula on the shores of Lake Superior. This is Ontonagon Rural Electric. And here you're looking at, on their site, we're displaying different pieces of data on one map. So this is data being pulled in from different systems. We have circuits, meter and outage events, work orders, AVL, CIS, and SCADA is all connected to this map. And when Greg goes into the software demonstration, you'll see the kind of powerful analysis you can do when you're connecting your data. And because Integrator is browser-based, you can access your maps and data from any device with a browser. So this includes smartphones or tablets, anything that's connected to the internet. And when you're using a GPS-enabled device like a smartphone, you can take advantage of our geolocate tool. So this tool will center you on the map, which will allow you to quickly locate assets around your current location. So this is a really handy feature to kind of find yourself within your system. And here's a screenshot of the back end of Integrator. So you don't need to be a software expert to use our software to its full potential. The administration interface is easy to navigate and straightforward, and in just a few clicks you can create custom traces, queries, forms, and reports. This is also where you can create new users and restrict user rights. So our software is very easy to use, and Greg's going to go into that further with his software demonstration. So without further ado, Greg, I will pass the presenting rights over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Dan, and thanks everybody for joining us today. And we'll do a little video check. You can see me?
I can see. I can hear.
Hey, we're off to a good start.
All right.
Okay, so I have just one slide here just as the marketing materials that we sent out in the emails, the topics for today. So I'm going to introduce you to the software initially, just briefly, the layout, navigation, some of the unique features of the product that make it easy for different types of users within your organization. A lot of times GIS products are pretty technical in nature, and we're going to talk about how really anybody, if you are a power user, we'll show you that. If you're somebody that just wants to be able to get good information at your fingertips, we'll show you how that works. And then we're going to also talk a little bit about meter deployment and generally asset change out and how, as Dan touched on, you can do a lot of things now in the field. There's a lot more acceptance of maps and GIS and technology out there amongst the workforce, so we're going to show some examples of that. Then we're going to talk about circuit model creation and management and how we can help you if you don't have your maps accurately reflecting your circuit model, how we can help you get there, and then how we can help you keep it accurate and up to date. We're going to show predictive outage analysis, and obviously a big theme of a lot of these things is going to be how the AMI integration helps. We have multi-speak AMI to OMS, so we'll show a customer that's hooked up to their AMI system and automatically getting information in. We'll also talk about the multiple ways that outage notifications can come in, not just through your metering system, but web notification, phone calls, call service, that type of thing. We'll show them some examples of public outage maps and people going to your website and notifying you that they're out, how we have tools for that. And then we'll wrap up with a customer video, an example of really tapping the power of that load data that comes from AMI systems, and then we'll open it up and take your questions. Okay, so I'm going to actually start with I'm going to start with a municipal client, and then I'm going to come back to this site, which is a co-op, so we kind of show a couple different examples. So this is a customer of ours in Brainerd, Minnesota, and you'll notice right off that they have a lot of different sites here, electric, wastewater, water. Everything I'm going to show you today, obviously the theme for today is heavy emphasis on electric, but all the technology and the capabilities that we're going to show you apply equally well to other utility types. And the other thing that is reflected in here is how easy it is to set up these different sites. So really a site is just a combination of maps, data, and people. So like in this case, you'll see a meter changeout map that I'll circle back to, a public outage map. So with Integrator, you can set these up for different people. A lot of our customers, even if they're an electric co-op and all they do is electric, they'll have different sites, one set up just for the field guys with just the things that they do, so they don't have to look through a lot of other things that aren't really applicable to them. So again, that's one example of the administration, the ease of administration is setting up different sites for different people and different groups of people. All right, so I'm going to select the electric site. And one thing I forgot to mention, obviously, is if I didn't have, password or credentials to get into certain sites, I wouldn't be able to do that. And we'll talk about the administration in that regard a couple times here as we go through. But to introduce you to the layout of the software, this ribbon of buttons up on the top are primarily navigation and data tools. So you can, obviously zoom in, zoom out, tab back and forth. This is a nice tool for map tips, sliding the map around, and then extracting data. You also have, anytime you want, if you're zoomed real in and you want to come back to this kind of initial view, you can hit the little home. And then also you have a full screen capability. So if you are using the software on a phone or tablet and you want to use the maximum amount of screen real estate, you can hit that button. Over on the left are some of the more advanced tools, data queries. This allows you to see your layers and legends, base maps. And in fact, I'll just turn one of those on. And so you have a lot of base maps that come available with the product, as remaps and other publicly available base maps like Bing and Google and other things like that. Buffer tool, measure tool, red line markup. This is where we get into the admin part, which we'll go into in a little bit. Printing and developing different types of output, of map output, is very easy with the system, so that different folks can easily just pull a map, put it into a PDF document, email it to somebody, whatever they want to do. We'll talk about the trace model. This is where the circuit model and connectivity stuff takes place. And then this, Dan mentioned, a geolocate tool as well. So we'll kind of hit most of this stuff as we go. But for now, I'm going to start with just a basic example of somebody that's looking for some information, wants to zoom in to a particular area. You can do that just to kind of orient you to this particular customer symbology, which, by the way, with each customer, they can pick their own symbols and how they want the map to look. So you'll notice these brown circles, a few of them sprinkled around here, those are poles. Some of the brightly colored circles are different types of service locations. And so again, you can set that up however you'd like. You also have the ability to very easily grab data, and in a much more intuitive way than most GIS systems. So if I'm looking for some information, I can do it by either pointing at an individual thing, I can draw a circle, an irregular polygon, or just a regular rectangle. So I'm going to start with a simple example here. I'm looking for some information about these wood poles. So you'll notice throughout the software, very intuitive, bubble help pops up to help you, very straightforward here, press down to start and let go to finish. So I'm grabbing this particular area, and what Integrator's doing now is something pretty unique to GIS systems. First of all, as Dan mentioned, we're not just looking at the map data. It's not just whatever's in your mapping software. We can connect to your billing system, your metering system, your AVL, your work order system, your outage management system, whatever it might be. And as the end user, I don't need to be a GIS person and have, know that I got to be zoomed in and click layers and turn things on in order to get information. I really just zoom into an area, select what type of tool I want to grab data, drag an area, and the software will do a couple things. It's going to look at my credentials to see what kind of data is available to me, and it's going to obviously looking at that specific area that I dragged over. So then it gives me a list of reports that have been built for that kind of data. So if I hadn't dragged over any customers, there wouldn't be a customer report up there, for example. And so I'm going to just hit a W because I know I'm looking for the wood pole report, and I just tell it to run that report. So for that area I dragged over, there were a few wood poles, and if you look at this report, it's a pretty pretty full report, got a lot of good data on it. You can sort and search just by clicking on columns. You can type in a search criteria here, a smart search, and if you're looking for something specific, it'll just find records that are specific, that match that criteria. You'll also notice that on this particular record, it says light on pole, yes, there's a street light. So we have the ability to make what we call sub-reports. And the thing I want to emphasize, and Dan touched on it, but I'm going to emphasize it a lot through the demonstration, all these things you're seeing are user-definable. We're not boxing you in saying this is a hard-coded piece of software, here's what it does. These reports can be easily modified, built from scratch, deleted, whatever you want. They're something that with some training on just basic report generating capability, you can build your own reports. And so in this case, this customer said, where there's a street light on a pole, I'd like to be able to, while I'm looking at this pole report, I'm going to hold over this and it says open the light report. So now I can see the information that's associated with that light that's on that pole. Now I also might want to zoom in and identify that exact pole. So by doing that, you'll notice the map centers around the item that I've zoomed to. And I might want to do a markup here. I could maybe put some notes on this, do some measurements, export a map, anything I might want to be able to do with the map information. You'll also notice a little box here that looks like a form. Not only are reports user definable, but data entry and update and editing forms are user definable as well. So this customer has a form. Let's say somebody's out here replacing something on this pole or doing something, repairing something. They set up this form just the way that they wanted it. And now this person who's using the form can be out in the field or in the office and update some information, on the fly. So the beauty of that user definability is the longer you use the software, the more good ideas you get. You can continue to evolve and build the product. A lot of customers, when we first get to them, they spend a lot of money on GIS, and they kind of have this rigid system that really is the same thing that, they got 5 years ago. Our customers are continuing to, add things, build on stuff as they get more ideas of how to utilize the flexibility of the product. Okay, so in that example, I zoomed into a certain area because I knew geographically, I knew I was looking for some poles in this area. Another huge component of the system is the user-definable queries. So in this customer's case, they built searches for a lot of different things, capacitors, customers, fuses, and so they have the ability to search for data and then look at it on the map. So I'm going to do an example here. I'm going to do a transformer search, and I'm going to say, you notice like when we teach you how to do this, this customer sat down and said, well, what are all the ways I might want to search for transformers? Sometimes I want to search by feeder or whether they're overhead or underground. The example I'm going to show here is just one to show that, is based on kVA. I want to see all my 2000 kVA transformers. And I just say run report. And so now you'll notice, of course, this report was again defined by the customer. I have information where I can look in more transformer spreadsheet reports, so that gives me even more detail about the transformer. I also have, instead of zooming to an individual record, if you notice way up here on the right, there's another button that says zoom to all transformers. So I'm going to click that button. And so what the software does now is it says, okay, here are these transformers. They're kind of scattered around the system. These are the 2000 kVAs. Notice it zooms in just to the right as far as it can while still capturing the data that was requested. And again, with those reports, you have the ability, like they built in here, to update information. So one of the other really positive impacts of this user definability is when people are able to kind of adapt the system, particularly for the guys in the field, hey, this is the same form, it's just on a tablet. It's really the same form you've been filling out on paper. It really gets them to buy into using it a lot easier, and they also become, in essence, a quality control, data quality control, field force where they're out seeing things and that information's not correct. And again, they have to be given rights, and maybe it's the superintendent who does it, whatever it is, but the ability to adapt that to your particular use really makes the product a full circle, tool for not only let's get a bunch of good data in there, but let's take good care of the data as we go down the road. Okay, so I'm going to switch over now to a video. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll show the Brainerd's site here. Notice they have one called the meter changeout map. So when I pick on this, you'll notice a totally different looking map, and they're actually just beginning a deployment of the Landis+Gyr AMI system. So if we look at the legend here, you can see the green circles are the new RF meters. The red circles are their old ones. The yellow ones are when they've updated and installed the meter, but they haven't exported the data out of the map to put it into their billing system, which in this case is Encode. So that's kind of the segue towards this video that I'm going to play, which, as I mentioned in the earlier presentation, you might recognize the guy's voice because it's Dan Freeman, who started off the presentation.
My name is Daniel Freeman, and today I'm going to demonstrate an application of our mPower integrator software to make the process of meter changeout, or in this case, an AMI deployment, faster and more efficient. What we're looking at here on this site are all of our meters. The red dots indicate meters that have not been changed out yet, and the blue dots indicate meters that have been replaced with new AMI meters. The first thing we need to do is locate the meter we're going to replace. We have a few ways we can do this. We can zoom in on the map and select the meter with the point select tool, or we can enter a portion of the meter number or scan the barcode. Or if you're standing in front of the meter and using a GPS-enabled device like a smartphone or tablet, you can use the geolocate button to quickly find the meter on the map. In this example, I'm going to enter the last 4 digits of the meter I'm looking for, and the system will automatically find the meter. I'm going to enter these last 4 digits here and run the report. Once the meter is selected, a meter report will show up. The report shows the meter number and address. If the meter appears in the correct location on the map, we can go straight into the meter changeout form. If it does not appear correctly on the map, we can use the Move Edit button, which is this little globe here that lets you assign a new location for the meter. This particular customer did not have meters on their map, so we geolocated them based on addresses from the data in the CIS or billing system, which gives us an approximate location for each meter. Now that we're at the meter to replace it, we'll use the Move Edit tool to move the meter to its actual location. Once we click the Move Edit tool, a form geometry box appears. That allows you to move the meter to its actual location. You can use the GPS function on your phone or tablet, and it will place the meter exactly where you are. Alternatively, you can also use the Map Select button and select the spot where you want the meter to appear on the map. I'm going to use the Map Select button and place the meter next to the house where the meter is actually located. The Map Select tool is useful if you're in a heavily wooded area or on the north side of a structure or otherwise have poor GPS reception. Now I'm going to hit the Submit button and automatically be brought to the meter changeout form. Once you're in the form, the first thing you're going to want to do is take a photo of the old meter. When you click the Choose File button on a smartphone or tablet, you'll instantly be able to capture a photo of the old meter using your smartphone or tablet. In this case, I'm going to upload a file from my computer. Next, we'll take a photo of the new meter we're about to install. Again, on the smartphone or tablet, when I click the Choose File button, you'll instantly be able to capture a photo of the new meter. Once we have the photos taken, we will complete the remaining user-defined fields in the form. We'll select the employee or user, enter the install date, confirm the ID number of the old meter, enter the old meter number reading, enter the old meter's flex ID number, and the demand number. After the old meter data is entered, we will enter the new meter number and enter the new reading, which in this case will be 0. We can also add the class and the form. If everything looks good, we'll go ahead and click Submit. Now, if you reselect the meter or zoom in or zoom out, you'll see the new meter data, and you'll see that the meter has changed from red to blue. Using the same application, you can delete meters that are duplicates or no longer in service or add new ones. We, of course, encourage our customers to set up user-defined permissions so that deletions need to be approved before getting deleted off the map. That concludes this demonstration of mPower Integrator's meter changeout application. As you can see, this application of our integrator software makes the meter changeout process much smoother and efficient.
Okay. So, and one other point to emphasize with that is that's an example of really an application that one of our customers came up with. They said, hey, you know, we're using the forms, we're about to deploy an AMI system, you know, let's do this right. So, you know, they really were able to streamline the information. They got the new incoming meter data from Landis and Gear and really got the work done out in the field and got the system updated at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to switch now to the cooperative example that I alluded to before, or that Dan showed a screenshot of. This is Ontonagon Rural Electric. And point out a couple things. When the map pops in here, you'll notice quite a bit of stuff. This is a demonstration site, and you know, we're kind of simulating when there's a lot of outage stuff going on. So these stars indicate different outages at different stages. You see the triangles are the vehicles tied into their Fleetmatics. I can't remember exactly which AVL system they have. And so you also notice some of these little exclamation point symbols. These are, again, an advantage when you start having tablets out in the field. This is where when during an outage or even just from time to time when things happen, if somebody's out in the field and they see something that's damaged, or particularly during an outage, you know, if there's a tree on a line or if there's something there, they can easily come in here and grab this little tool here and pop it right on the map, put some information on it so other people can see, hey, you know, here's what's going on out in the field. Okay, so one of the things I mentioned before was that circuit model, you know, creation and management is an important part of an advanced system that really ties everything together and taps the power of the AMI system for a lot of different things, predictive analysis, those kind of things. So I'm going to show our model tool here in the back, and also emphasize before I do that that if your maps currently don't have the model in them, that's something we've helped dozens of customers with, and we're very good, as we do with all things, where we look at what do you have that's good, let's figure out how to just help you get to that next stage where we can get your maps up to date. And then once you have your maps up to date, you know, the circuit model flowing correctly, you want to be able to maintain that. If you use a product like MillSoft or SIME, you want to be able to keep that updated. And really where that should take place is inside your maps. That's where the work should be done. So I'm going to go into our trace module here, and I'm going to go into this the model for this particular utility. And what I'm going to do is run process model. So what this is going to do, this is obviously something you would do anytime, you know, there's been changes to the map, and you want to just periodically check this and check and make sure that your parent-child data model, the standard, you know, for electrical, is, you know, somebody didn't make a mistake, and that when we really need this model during an outage, we can count on it being correct. So what the software is doing is it's scanning the entire model. In essence, it's doing a full trace up and trace down and checking the accuracy of the model and identifying any potential problems with the model. So, and what it's also going to do, I'll show you in a second, is it's going to give you a visual display, not only tabular data, but it's going to show you back on the map that, hey, these are some areas where you might want to check this out. It might make sense that this isn't, you know, I've seen something here there isn't a child to this particular parent, whatever it might be, but it'll give you a very easy way to get a good look at your model and make sure it's correct, and if it needs a little rehab, you can do that. So let's actually do that. Let's switch back to the map. And so now I'm going to go over to my legend here, and I'm going to turn off this layer and turn on my trace problems layer. And so what that's going to do is give me the information. Now, at first glance, it looks like there's a lot of problems here, but the green is actually indicating that things are good. So let's show that. And so if you look at this example, we can see that any of the green triangles mean everything's good. But hey, we got a few things out here that maybe we may have a loop in the model here. We may have some stuff, a lot of these things may be valid, that there's, you know, that's just the end of the line, whatever it might be. But it really gives you that visual tool to say, okay, you know, here's a couple things we got to look at, but let's keep it up to date and accurate. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to the main view here. And scroll down. And actually, I think I grabbed the wrong one, so let's hop back in here. There's a technical problem between the chair and the mouse, as we say. Okay, so the next couple things I want to talk about are the predictive analysis tool. So now that we are confident that our model's in good shape, I'm going to come back in here and turn on the predictive engine. And what that's going to do is show me, based on the data that's coming in, it's going to show me some predictions about what possibly could be causing these problems. Because, again, we know a lot of times that, you know, there may be outages in an area that all might look like the same outage just because they're in the same area, but, you know, they might be affected. 2 or 3 different things might be causing these outages. So this is just a simple example that's showing this yellow star here. It looks like, based on the timing, and this is particularly good, it's actually either good whether you have AMI or you're really still just getting calls in, because it gives you the kind of information that, you know, gets you started in the right place. Hey, let's look here, but basically in this case we're saying, you know, there's a very good chance that most of this is affected by this OCR, but we most likely have a transformer that's got a problem down here as well. So predictive analysis, and each one of these topics that we get into in this introductory webinar, you know, we're happy to do follow-up one-on-one meetings and take deeper dives into, you know, the details of how this stuff is working. But we've done a lot of research. This was a few years ago that we really put some heavy research into optimizing the predictive analysis capabilities. So another thing I'm going to fire up here is our outage management software and talk about AMI integration with outage management. So this is our outage management software that's tied in directly with the mapping and the integrator GIS product. So if we look at, if you recall those stars on the map that were red and blue, these are indicating the status of these calls. So when brand new calls come in, whether they're phone calls that are taken, web notifications from your customers, call center, or your AMI, they're going to come in as red. Within the advanced settings, we can set up the multi-speak settings to determine how we want calls to group based on, like this customer has any calls that come in within 15 minutes on the same feeder and the same sub, group them together. You can set those up yourself. A lot of these other switches and settings are really are the experience of the software, if you will, working with a lot of different, we've worked with really every AMI system you can think of, and each one of them has their own little idiosyncrasies, so we've had to adapt the product to kind of make sure, you know, we're handling that AMI data correctly. But so if we go back to the manage screen, you can look at this created by column and you can see where this information came from. So the administrator, these are because I did a few manual entries this morning, and I was signed in as administrator. If I was signed in as Greg, it would show my name. Okay, those calls came in. Greg took those calls. The web service information, these are different types of web services. Some of these are actual meter calls, and some of these, you'll notice this one has a thing here, CRC ticket. So we have quite a few customers that use CRC's call service, and that showed that it came in from that source. So one of the other big trends that a lot of our customers have been starting to ask, you know, more and more for in the last couple of years is the ability for their customers to notify them over the web. As people become more and more, tied to their devices, they'd really rather, migrate to your website and put some information in and tell you that way. Or look at a public outage map and see, okay, I can tell that they know that I'm out of power. So I'm going to show both of those examples, and I'm going to get this little box out of the way here. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the public entry. So this is where, we set up a link on your website that says, hey, if you have a power problem, click here. Obviously, your logo would be here, not ours. You can define what you want this text to be, and then the person on their phone would put in either their account ID or their phone number, and so that we can validate that we have the right person. And so what the software does is it says, so that the person can be clear that, the system has identified the right person, it will come in and show their address. Now, the other thing that's important to note, particularly with AMI, is if the meter's already called in and they type that in, it's going to give a different message saying, we're aware of the outage, appreciate your patience, whatever, we're working on it. But in this case, I'm just going to put in my information. You can predefine some categories, so you can still get some good information. When people call in on the phone, obviously you can interview them a little and get some information, but if they're over the web and there's a line down or something that's important for you to know, they can select that and they can put in, put in that information. And so now that's going to pop right in to the outage management system. It'll also verify if they actually try several times and they're just not putting in a number that's correct, it'll pop up a message saying, sorry you're having problems, call us, do the old-fashioned thing and, dial a phone and talk to us directly. So one of the things that people have also been asking about on the map side is public outage maps. And again, because integrators so easy to set these up, this wouldn't be a situation, customers of ours that have had the product for years and said, hey, we want a public outage map, that's not like they have to hire us to go in and do some custom programming, set a bunch of stuff up. It's like, well, create another site, and with the public outage maps, you typically only want to share so much detail. So if I click over to their public site, this is what the public would see if they came to the Ontonagon live site, and you just really create another layer in your maps of how you want calls to be grouped in like a grid format. And again, this way people can come onto your site and say, oh, okay, there's a bunch of outages in my area. They know about it. So the obvious benefit of those two things, people notifying you through the internet and having a public outage map, is it cuts down on the amount of call volume dramatically. You get a lot more information, easier, and, you got less time, less people having to field, hundreds of phone calls. Okay, so I want to just flip back to the outage management. In a more focused purely on outage management, we would get into more of this detail, but when we have an actual outage, we can use this, this is more than AMI systems will say, well, we have outage management. Well, they're putting stars on a Google map. That's not really managing and coordinating and assigning resources and keeping track of what you've done and what you haven't done. That's what our outage management system's all about, is prioritizing outages, seeing who all was in this outage, keeping track of when you rolled trucks and got people out of bed for overtime purposes. You have an assignment screen here, so again, you can keep track of running history of what I did. You can see here I assigned a crew, I assigned a runner, condition found. So I can, when I'm moving and there's multiple things going on, I can always keep track of what I've figured out, what I've got in process, what I still need to analyze. Notifications and referrals is just keeping track of if we had to notify an emergency group, fire department, wherever it might be. We can, keep track of that. And then the last couple tabs are really just recording the outage and calculating the outage time. And as an aside, by the way, if those of you that are municipals and if you happen to work with APPA on e-reliability, we are actually working with APPA directly right now and about to finalize a new module that allows you to synchronize with or basically upload automatically. We saw some customers, a year or two ago, we came out, saw some customers, and the amount of work that they had to do to get that information in was crazy. So we're building a little module to automate that. So that's a lot of the benefits to AMI integration in terms of outage management. I'm going to play a video now, as I alluded to before, of a customer of ours, and there's quite a few of our customers are using the product now for load analysis with the all the great data that comes from an AMI system. So this is Kevin Kelly, the general manager of Groton Electric. So I'm going to adjust my volume here. So for some reason these two videos have drastically different volume levels. So by the way, when Kevin refers to his system, he uses the term AMR, and he actually has a true AMI system. I just want to hit that up front. So let's see if this video will fire up for me.
Hello, my name is Daniel Freeman, and today I'm going to
I grabbed the wrong one. Another technical problem.
Software to make the process of
Sorry about that.
One of the things that the first important thing we did once we linked our AMR system with our GIS system was to look at all the transformers that were overloaded. So to find overloaded transformers, we would just run a query, and we have a whole list of queries here. We can go to transformers by percent. And if we look at average load, that's going to be the 24 hours in a day, the way we have the report set up. So these transformers are going to be the transformers in our system on our peak day that had a load that was higher than 100%. Now, right now, you can see we have 23 transformers in our system where our peak day this year went over 100%. So if we're looking at these, one of the things that was important to us is we got the average load for the day, then we did our peak hour, and then what we did just to gather information was the non-incident peak. Because if a transformer has multiple people on it, eventually all of the different customers' peak loads are going to coincide on a long heat wave. So this non-incident peak of 300 is pretty scary, whereas right now you look at it in this transformer, it's near maximum capacity, but how much risk is there? Well, the 300 non-incident peak to me means there's a lot of risk. So let's take a look at that transformer a little more closely. So if we click on the button, we zoom right into where that transformer is. And so now this is a 10 kVA transformer that's serving 4 houses. You can't. Let me just zoom out a tad. The way it's zoomed in, I can see one of the secondary lines, but okay, so there's actually 4 houses served by this one transformer. So these 4 different houses all peak at different times. And if we run this report, we can see the 4 different people on the transformer and what they're doing. So now, because we've got the AMR system linked to the GIS system, and the mPower product is kind of integrating it, so the address and name is coming from our billing system. The meter data is coming from our AMR system, but the way all of the things are grouped is coming from our GIS system. So we have 3 totally separate databases linked together in one PDF report. So the first thing we notice, we have one customer here who's the big user on this transformer. And the non-incident peak we have this one user who has a huge load 1 hour of the day, and at some point, so fortunately, during our peak hour, this one user who's got the huge peak wasn't using a lot, but at some point during the day he is. So to me, this is from our peak, our recent peak, this is a transformer that we need to upsize. Because at some point his peak is going to be at the same time everybody else is going to be peaking, and this transformer is going to overheat. Now, when we first installed these queries, I must confess we had lots of transformers that were over 200% average, and so first we started with the over 250%, and then we went to the over 200%, and now we kind of play with the 150% to get those out of our system. So that was the first thing we did when we got the integrator system working on our system.
Okay, so a couple follow-up thoughts on that. One was, again, just like the meter swap out, an example of a customer who he actually bought his AMI pretty early on in the AMI adoption, bell curve, and he really wanted to have real-time load analysis, but really the AMI system doesn't have the ability to connect, and connect user or usage information from billing and load data and all of that. So we actually, the first thing we did for Kevin was we helped him get his connectivity model, and then he purchased Integrator, and he came to us and said, I think this really should work as a great load analysis tool. So without any other additional custom programming or anything, we worked with him for a couple days, connected stuff up. He told us how he wanted the reports to look, and we went to all of our other customers that had either purchased AMI or were about to and said, we didn't know it, but we sold you a load analysis system as an extra bonus. So again, a great example of adaptability of the product for different usages. And I'm actually just going to switch into his site and show a couple of, just expand on that concept a little bit further, and then we'll open it up for questions. So again, you'll see different look and feel as I go to different customer sites, and also different queries and tools that they've built. And I'm going to do a service location search here and grab that guy, and certain area I want to zoom into. So I'm going to find this transformer and zoom into it and just show a little bit more capability. The example that he showed, and by the way, those reports are just, again, everything's user definable. So load analysis, can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but those were just the way he's done it. Different customers have different things they want to do in tapping their AMI data. But in this case, I've zoomed into this, this transformer here, or this service location, and you notice there's several pad-mounted transformers here. And so I'm going to utilize my trace capability, which obviously is based on the circuit model. And you'll notice different traces. So Kevin set up different ones for different things. Trace down, trace up to the first protective device. In this case, I'm going to say flood to protective device. And so what the software is going to do is it's going to flood upstream and stop at this particular fuse up here in the corner, which happens to be a 75 kVA fuse. So now he can run reports based on, not just an individual transformer, but really look at the whole load on this fuse, check his fusing throughout his system. And some of the other things that he did was not just looking for overloaded transformers. When he first got the system, he would do the overloaded stuff in the spring, anticipating the summer heat wave, and then in the fall he started using the system to scrub, his data and look at places where he found the example that I always remember is he found a 30-unit senior housing apartment building that had, for some reason, had a 300 kVA transformer sitting there, which was at, 4% load during peak. So he's like, well, that's crazy. What is that, doing there? So I'm going to put that back in the inventory, and next time I need a 300 kVA, I've got one. So it's really reduced his capital cost. He's been able to reduce his no load loss because the system is more balanced. And again, it was all done, with the tool without heavy investment on his part. Okay, so Dan, if there's a couple more points you want to hit on the PowerPoint, if you want to just open it up for questions, but that concludes the software portion of the presentation.
All right. Yeah, I think we'll just open up the lines here. Give me 1 second. All right, so we do have the lines unmuted if anyone has any follow-up questions for us. All right, well, if we don't have any questions, I want to thank everyone for attending today, and we'll be sure to follow up with you in the next couple of days. Anything else you want to add, Greg? Oh, anything else?
Nope. Just thanks everybody for coming, and like Dan said, we'll follow up with you and see if you have questions or if you want to take a look at any of these things. We covered a lot of ground, so we can certainly do deeper dives into certain areas for those that are interested. Okay, thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.